Hello there, it's Carrie Rhoades here. Welcome back to the Trinity Stamps YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you 5 ways to use a mini stamp set. The mini stamp set I'm using is called S-mitten. You can see it here from Trinity Stamps. I'm also going to be making some quick and easy cards. So here's the stamp set. I'm also using this Slimline paper pack, black and white, and some pre-made note cards and envelopes that I had on hand. So what I like about the Slimline paper is I can cut it at 5.5 inches. It's already 4 inches wide, and it's going to fit on my card with a tiny border on each side. These note cards seem to be just a hair under 5.5 inches, so I did have to trim off the top. Now I'm stamping out my images. So the first technique I'm sharing, or the first way to use your mini stamp set, is to use all the images in the set on a card. And mini stamp sets usually only have 2 or 3 images, and this one has 2. So we're using the mittens and the sentiment, and I'm showing you how I'm coloring out the mittens, and I am leaving them with a center highlight. So I used my lightest color first, then I went in with my darkest, blended that out with my mid-tone, and then blended again with my lightest. So now I'm adding some gray. I'm sticking to one color scheme. When you want to make a lot of cards, it is kind of fun to challenge yourself to use some or all of the same products and just do different designs. So that's another way I'm creating a bunch of cards today. I'm making a total of 9 cards for today's video. And here you can see I'm coloring out the second mitten. I thought it would be fun to have them mismatched. So I'm using my tonal grays, and these are the colors I'm going to be using throughout today's video. I am switching out my darkest color for my pink. I started with R43 and I switched that to R35. It had more of a contrast that I liked. So now I'm going in and adding some white highlights with my Jelly Roll pen. I added some little freckles on each of them, which I think is so funny because they're mittens, but it's so cute. So there they are with their highlights. I love the puffy little band across the bottom. It really just makes the look of these mittens. So I'm using Coordinating Die to die cut those out, and then I used a sentiment banner die. I already had to cut out that sentiment, and there are the 2 pieces. Now we can lay these on the card and glue them on just like they are, but I felt like it needed a little something extra, so I'm adding a die cut circle that has a pierced edge, and that is what my mittens are going to sit on top of. So another quick and easy thing to do when you're making mass produced cards is to use patterned paper. So I'm going to use that same black and white paper on my next card, which is also another idea for using just the stamps in the stamp set. So I'm going to cut an opening in this with the die. You want to do that with the card open, and then I have a little window to the inside of my card. So now I'll take my stamped and colored images. I colored these ones the exact same way as card number 1, and I'm going to inlay those or line them up with that die cut opening, but I'm gluing them to the inside of the card. So now I have a window where you can see the mittens from the outside of the card and the inside. And now the sentiment, I'm just putting glue on the 2 ends because it's going to span over that opening, and I don't want to glue my card shut. So there you have it. And that's another patterned paper from that black and white Slimline paper pack. So that's the first way, just use the stamps in the set. The second way is to use the focal image of the stamp set as a background image. So I'm going to take those mittens, ink it up with clear pigment ink, and randomly stamp it across my card background. So first I have my black paper, and then I'm also going to do this in pink, and I'm going to emboss both of them with white powder. Now when I do this, I always want to make sure I'm stamping off the edge for a more uniform look. It looks like it's cut from a bigger piece. I did use my anti-static powder tool, but I did get quite a bit of excess white powder on this black one, and I just went with it. One way you can cover that up is to like splatter your card like with some white paint or like sparkle shimmery splatter. So that's one thing you can do if that happens to you. I just used it, and it didn't really bother me. I feel like it's kind of, there's some speckles drawn into the mittens, and so I just used it. So I colored out my pink mitten as normal, but I only used the lightest and mid-tone markers to color the background. And then over the top, I'm adding these little V shapes in rows to give my mitten some texture. So I thought it would be fun to show you some different ways to color out these mittens as we go through these 5 different ways to use your mini stamp sets. So there I did pink mittens with the gray trim, and now I'm going to do some gray mittens. And I wanted to show you this part because I switched out my gray markers. I started with T2, my mid-tone is T4, and then I'm going back and blending that with the T2 again. That way I can come in with my T6 and it's not too dark around those other stamped images on the inside of the mitten, the little eyes and mouth and the little patch. So there is the gray version. I wonder which one you like better, the pink or the gray. I don't know. I think they're both cute. I love this coloring technique for like sweaters. Also, it kind of adds like a little stitched look or knit look. Now, when I die cut this particular pair of mittens, my die moved. That happens to all of us. So what I'm going to do is just cut this right on the outside of that black line, leaving just the tiniest bit of white, and then I'm going to take the die and die cut out a black piece, and then I have a mat for my mittens. So now I'm going to add some vellum to my card backgrounds, and I'm just wrapping that around the back of the card, and I'll pop up my mittens on top of that, and then I'll glue this down to my card base. All of these cards are going to have a similar layout with that little skinny border showing on either side. So that measures 5.5 by 4 inches. Now I'm adding the sentiment and moving on to card number 2. So this black piece is getting the pink mittens, and I'll glue that onto my note card. It's so handy having the note cards already made. Mine were left over from a card kit I've had for a really long time, so it was time to break them out and use them. So there's 2 cards using the stamp as a background. For our third way to use a mini stamp, we're going to put multiple images on one card. So you can see I already had my images colored and I die cut them out. I use different coloring techniques on those, polka dots, wide bands of stripes, and some hand-drawn plaid. And now I'm making a slimline card using that same black and white paper as my background. I'm putting a pink mat on top of that, and then I can put my 3 pairs of mittens all in a row. I just love them all colored out different ways. So cute. I'm going to add a heat embossed sentiment, so it's embossed with white powder on black paper. I'll die cut that out and just put it right under that center pair of mittens to finish off this card for using multiple images on one card. So the third way to use your tiny stamp set. The fourth way is to combine it with something you already have. I'm going to use this Snowflake Kisses stamp set because I thought it would go really good with a pair of mittens because it says, if kisses were snowflakes, I'd send you a blizzard. So snowflakes and the little mittens that are in love, I just thought these two went really well together. So I colored out my mittens and added some gel pen polka dots to this one, and I'll die cut that out, and I'm just going to pop it up right underneath my sentiment for a very quick and easy card. And then I can just glue that down to my card. And that finishes that one off. I thought because I didn't use the sentiment on the outside, I could totally put it on the inside of that card. I'm going to use the same stamp again, but this time with black ink on white paper, just for a different look. And then for my pink mittens, I'm going to add some black gel pen hearts, but just like in a little row. I'm not going to cover the whole set of mittens this time. That might be too overwhelming with the black. And then when I die cut those out, I saw one of my black hearts had not quite dried and smeared. So then I added some white gel pen polka dots to save this card, and I really liked how that added some interest to the pattern on the mittens. And for this one, because I had white on white, I decided to add some tiny little strips of the pink cardstock on the edge of each side, and that just really helps add that little extra something that this card needed, but still left it quick and easy to make. So there are my 2 cards for the fourth way. Now the fifth way is to alter your stamp. So the first way I'm altering it is by doing some paper piecing. This is the Winter Hues Slimline paper pad. I stamped those mittens on the white polka dot background, cut them out, glued them on top, and then just colored the cuff and the patches. I have a different black and white pattern paper here with hearts. Isn't it so cute? I added a strip of pink cardstock, popped up my mittens, and stamped my sentiment for another quick and easy card. Very little coloring on that one. The other way I'm altering my stamps is to do some omitting. So I have just the sticky part of a Post-it note that I'm covering up the faces on my mittens. I'm going to ink that up and then remove those Post-it notes. That's the key to this stamping, is to remove those pieces, because it won't look cute if you stamp it with them on. And then you stamp them down and you have your mittens without faces. So it gives you a second way to use your mittens. I also think these mittens would be really cute as cactus. Go with me on this. If you colored these in green and added some little spikes to them, they could totally be cactuses, and then stick them in a little pot. So there's another idea for you that I didn't do, but I wanted to show you how I did the plaid. I started out with a really light color and then 2 darker colors over the top for the lines and some little gel pen accents to make my plaid mittens. Just hand drawn. It's nothing fancy. I didn't worry about spacing them. Maybe that is important to you, but I am learning to let go of perfection and just have fun with my stamping, and it's a good thing. It doesn't have to be perfect. All right, so there we are stamping out a background. So I'm combining the last step and using that Blizzard or Snowflake Kisses stamp as my background this time, stamping it with colored ink on colored paper. I added my sentiment on my black strip and popped up my mittens. So there's the last 2 cards, and now let's bring in all 9 cards and have a look at these so you can see all of them together. And now I have a bunch of Valentine cards that did not take very long to make, and they're super cute. I didn't have to do a lot of creative thinking because I stuck with the same paper pad. I stuck with the same colors. I thought of different ways to add texture to my mittens, and it was just so much fun making these quick and easy cards with a mini stamp set. I hope that it gave you some new ideas, and maybe you'll break out some mini stamp sets and try some. Thank you so much for stopping by. I will see you all again very soon with another video for Trinity Stamps. Happy stamping. Bye.